Alexa, stop. Alexa, tell me a psychology joke.
How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb has to want to change.
Okay, everybody, now that we've had the fun and games, I thought I'd mostly go over the concept map to talk about memory. And I'm going to start with this section at the top right here. It's called the three-stage memory of theory of learning. And we're going to start with sensory memory, and then we're going to work to short-term memory, and then we're going to end up in long-term memory. I don't know if I can do this in 15 minutes. We'll see. So we'll start with sensory memory, okay? And, you know, to begin with, you probably thought of your memory as just one thing and not these three separate stages. But sensory memory is a pre-conscious form of memory. It means that we're not even aware of it while it's doing its job. And essentially, it's a holding tank for hundreds of pieces of sensory data that are coming at you at any given moment. So right now, you're sitting there, watching this video, and it may not feel like hundreds of pieces of information are coming at you, but there's background noise, maybe there's a smell if you're eating something, there's a taste in your mouth of some sort. You probably a second ago weren't thinking about the feeling of your butt on the chair. Oh, look, there it is. Now you have the sense of your butt on the chair. And so all this stuff is getting stored before we're even aware of it, because awareness doesn't come in until short-term memory over here. Sensory memory holds a lot. It holds it very accurately, but it's tiny, 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 okay? And it's always recycling and updating with the current information. And so nothing stays for very long, but it's there unless you need it, okay? Or in case you need it, sorry. And what we need are what we decide are the most important things. So most of the stuff in any given moment that's in sensory memory, you're never going to know it was there, okay? Normally on an average day, if I called you up and said, how did your butt feel at 10 a.m.? You're not going to be able to tell me because it will have decayed out of sensory memory because it didn't get selected as an important piece of information. Okay, and that's encoding, right? The only thing you have to do to encode from sensory memory to short-term memory is simply pay attention. Okay, that's all that's involved with encoding. Okay, so I made you think about the feeling of your butt on the chair, and it popped right over to short-term memory, over to your awareness. Now, as I said, it's short-lived, it's accurate, and it's really big. We have two different kinds of sensory memory. There's more than that, but the two that they talk about the most are iconic memory and echoic memory, okay? So iconic memory is for vision, and so when we look at something for only about a half a second, it's super brief, we hold a very accurate memory of that information, okay? And then it gets replaced by our new visual information. Echoic memory, and it makes sense if you think about the name, is audition, okay, or it's hearing. It is slightly longer. It's 1 to 2 seconds. So think about the time you're watching TV, you're not paying attention, someone walks in the room and says something to you and you go, what? Okay, and they don't even have to tell you because you go, oh, I did hear it. It was in sensory memory. I could go in and get it as long as it was in that 1 to 2 second window there. Okay, so hopefully sensory memory makes sense to you. And then, as I said, to encode it, which really is just a word for transferring it. To transfer it, okay, into short-term, all we have to do is pay attention. Now, short-term memory. Short-term memory is we can almost think of that like our consciousness, our awareness, okay? It's whatever we're thinking about at any given moment, okay? And we might be thinking about new information coming into the system, or we may be calling stuff out of long-term memory back into here to think about it. What did I do yesterday? So that's going to pull it from here to here. It's often called working memory because it's what we're working with, both new information and old information at any given time. Now, in general, I'm very impressed with the human body, but this little bugger sucks. and it causes a lot of problems for us in terms of our memory, although we could do a lot to improve it and we just don't. So working memory only holds 5 to 9 pieces of information. Okay, 5 to 9 pieces of information. And it only holds things for about 30 seconds. Okay, so you might be looking up the phone number to call the pizza place. You're repeating the number in your head as you walk to find your phone. And by the way, that repeating of it over and over in your head is called maintenance rehearsal. It's just rote repetition. Okay, so I'm repeating the pizza number, and in comes my roommate and says, "Hey, how was your day?" Pizza, the phone number's gone, right? You just knocked it out. Because that phone number was 7, which is right in the middle of the sweet spot there, 7 pieces of information, and them talking to you put you over the edge and displacement occurred. Okay, you could not fit any more information in there. It happens to us all the time, right? So I am sitting at my coffee table. I'm just about to cut out some coupons, and I go, oh, I need the scissors. And so I walk into the kitchen where the scissors are, and I get there and I go, why did I come in here? Okay, the reason that happens is because of this small capacity. You let something else come into your short-term memory, okay? And so it pushed out the idea of the scissors. Now I go and I walk back into the coffee table. I see the newspaper. The newspaper serves as a, where is it? Retrieval cue, okay, which is down here, things that help us remember. And I go, oh, I needed the scissors. Okay, so now I go walking back to the kitchen, and this time I'm going, scissors, scissors, get the scissors. Don't forget the scissors. So I can keep it in short-term memory. So that would be maintenance rehearsal. Now, the one thing we can do, or one of the things we can do to improve how much we can get into memory is called chunking, okay? Chunking. So it's taking smaller pieces of information and turning it into bigger ones, okay? Taking small bits of information and clumping them together into chunks. So if I said to you, remember the number 564132879, you probably have a hard time doing that. But think about your Social Security number. You can remember that very easily. It is automatically chunked with those hyphens. Okay, so when I read off that list of numbers, you were trying to get 9 bits of information into your short-term memory, which is too much, quite frankly. But your Social Security number, you're only trying to remember 3 bits of information. That's chunking, okay? It's why your teachers always want you to outline papers and so forth, because it serves as a chunk. It groups things together. Like, look at this whole thing right here, right? Look at your concept maps. I have literally set these up because of the idea of chunking. Okay, so when you're studying, maybe you study this chunk. Now, you could look at this as 3 different pieces of information, okay? But if you just think of it as sensory memory, okay, and all the stuff under it, and you study that and then take a little break, and then here's the short-term chunk. If you look at it that way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We only have 8 things to learn for the test. Piece of cake. No, it's not that easy, but it does make a difference. Your brain is like a file cabinet, okay? And it could be a well-organized file cabinet, or it could be a trash heap, okay? So if I counted up all the concepts on this page, what would there be? Maybe 40, okay? And that's a lot, okay? What chunking does is it kind of organizes it into files, okay? So think about, I'm trying to find a file in a file cabinet, and if it's well organized and filed, I can quickly go to it, grab it, pull it out, and get the information in it, okay? Versus if I have all this stuff in there randomly in a big pile, I'm never going to find it, okay? So one of the biggest things we do is we don't put information in our brains in an organized fashion. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Now, we're going to talk about how do you get information from short-term memory to long-term memory, okay? And I'll probably get through this part and then I'll have to move to a new video. Okay, so again, we're talking about encoding. We're talking about transfer. And the part of the brain that's super important here is the hippocampus. It's the part of the brain that's in charge of creating new long-term memories. Okay, so if that doesn't work, you are not making new long-term memories. Now, the biggest thing you can do is what's called elaborative rehearsal. Elaborative rehearsal is when you attach meaning to something that you could otherwise process very superficially. So, like right now, you should be working on your application papers, okay? The reason I assign that is because that's a form of elaborative rehearsal. My bet is at the end of the semester, okay, when if I tested you a year down the road, you would probably remember those concepts better than anything else in the class because I made you do some deep processing of it, okay? And I made you attach this new information to something that's already well stored in memory. So let me give you an example of that. Okay, you're going to walk through your house, and I want you to picture this walk as you go through your head. Okay, I want you to actually make images in your head. Okay, I want you to picture some broccoli on the couch in your living room, sitting there. Okay, and now you go into the dining room, and there's toilet paper sitting on the dining room table. Okay, and now you go into the kitchen, and in the sink, you see a steak wrapped up sitting there. Okay, so there's a steak in the sink. Now I go into the bedroom, and on my bed is a bag of oranges. And on the dresser is a box of tomatoes. Okay, and then I head to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, in the tub, there is a tub of margarine. Okay, and in the sink, we have some paper towels. Okay, so now let's go back through. What's on your living room couch? What's on your dining room table? What's on your kitchen sink, in your kitchen sink? What's on your bed in the bedroom? What's on the dresser? Okay, what's in the bathroom tub? What's in the sink? Okay, you probably got most of those right, okay? And I was pushing the limit of your short-term memory, okay? I don't know how many I did there, but it was pretty close. But because you did elaborative rehearsal, I bet you did pretty good. And in psychology class in general, that's incredibly helpful. So you could add this as a tool when you're studying, okay? So when you're going through all your concepts, reach back into your memory and try to think of an example of when it happened to you. Okay, when it personally happened to you, if you can do that. The reason that's so helpful is if you listen to my examples, you are having to learn what the concept means and a new example on top of it. If you use your examples, all you're having to learn is the new concept. You're attaching it to something you already know very well. And there's nothing more important to you than you. That's actually the information we process best in the universe, is stuff about ourselves. Okay, so whenever you can associate new learning to you and your memory, your old memories, then that helps. Okay, I'm going to pause there and we'll come back to encoding.